Hello, my name is Bill Phipps. We live in a world of many divisions, and we are divided by many walls which can seem impossible to break down. The Bible contains abundant stories of trying to bridge or to tear down our human-made walls. And Christians believe that the story of Jesus is the story of someone who broke down walls and built bridges instead. So hear the words of St. Paul in his letter to the Ephesians in chapter 2. He says this, "For Christ is our peace. In his flesh he has made both groups into one, broken down the dividing walls, that is, the hostility between us." There's a hymn in Voices United called "Though Ancient Walls," and it tells the story of many walls over time that we have built up and how we must break them down. Most of us, I think, are intimidated by the walls that divide us these days. Racism, sexism, poverty, extreme wealth, the climate crisis, COVID-19, violence against women, homophobia, the slow pace of reconciliation between indigenous and non-indigenous peoples. It seems to be overwhelming and huge, seemingly impossible to deal with all of this, and so we become paralyzed or immobilized. The most frequently asked question in my experience is, but what can I do, or what can we do? Well, the biblical tradition is quite clear throughout the Bible. Do justice, love tenderly, and walk humbly with God. Loving justice among all people and loving respect for Mother Earth. The Bible is full of stories putting flesh on these virtues. Noah's rainbow, wilderness times, Exodus from slavery, Jesus' life, teachings, crucifixion and resurrection, the birth of the Christian community. There are just tons of stories in the Bible from the beginning to the end that try to explain how we break down walls. Walter Brueggemann summarizes our stories this way. He says, "The prophetic tasks of the church are to tell the truth in a society that lives in illusion, to grieve in a society that practices denial, and express hope in a society that lives in despair." Stories draw us into hopeful action. Stories are one way that we can address what seems to be impossible in breaking down the walls that divide. Listen to Carolyn's story.
Welcome to the story tree. This story tree is a willow, and I am in a park near downtown Calgary, Alberta. And there's a great big old magpie nest right up in that tree. Magpies are storytellers too, if you listen. The story I brought you today is called The Wall. Once upon a time, when grandmothers knew how to knit and grandfathers knew how to whittle, there was a little old man and a little old woman who always carried a bag, and in it were marvelous things, and whenever it seemed right, they would give something from the bag to a child. One day, the little old man went to the mailbox and discovered a curious letter. He carried it to the kitchen where the little old woman was pouring tea and read it out loud. "Dear friends," he read, "we know that you carry a special bag. Could you please take that bag to the children on the other side of the mountain? It would be best if you could hurry." And that was all. There was no signature or return address. The little old people sipped their tea in silence and thought for a while, and then they put on their jackets and picked up their bag and walked out the door. Now, their bag didn't look special, and it wasn't very big. just big enough. But inside were the most beautiful things that the little old people had found in the whole wide world. There were songs about love and laughter and sadness and hope, songs to help you snuggle down on a nice, soft lap. Inside those songs, you could get lost for a while and find your heart. There were stories in the bag, too. Stories about clear lakes and deep forests and children growing up free and healthy and safe. Some stories were short, like a hop. Others were as long as a country road. Inside the stories, you could get lost for a while and find your imagination. And that's not all. The little old people had tucked dreams inside the bag, too. These were dreams about changing from one thing to another, finding what was lost, or starting things never even heard of before. Some dreams last the whole night long. Others are so tiny they can fit into an afternoon nap. For days and days they walked toward that mountain. But one Tuesday morning, about 11 o'clock, they found they could go no farther. They had come upon a great big wall. The little old man and the little old woman stopped and put down their stories and songs and dreams. "How ever will we get past this wall?" asked the little old woman. "We must think fast," said the little old man. "The letter said we should hurry." After they had been thinking for about 43 minutes, the little old man saw a car come lickety-split down the road. It stopped, and a man got out. "Look!" cried the little old man. "It's a powerful leader." He could tell the man was a powerful leader because he wore powerful clothes and had a cell phone stuck in his ear. "Please help," said the little old woman. "We need to get past this wall so we can visit the children on the other side of the mountain." The powerful leader glanced at the old people, and then his cell phone rang. He had a long, loud, powerful conversation, and after he finished, he agreed with the little old people that they did indeed have a problem. "We might need a study," he said. "Maybe next week or next year. Send me your cell phone number, and I'll have my people call yours," he said. And he climbed powerfully back into his shiny car and drove away. Oh, but suddenly the little old woman cried, "Look! Here come some people. They look rich. They're driving a fancy car. They will help us, surely." Two rich people did indeed stop their long, shiny, fancy car and pressed buttons to open the windows. The rich woman stared at the dusty old people. "Squeegee kids are mighty old these days," she said. The rich man held out a handful of nickels. "Here," he said, "just don't scratch the windshield." "We don't need money," said the little old man. "We need to get past this wall. You see, it's the children." "Oh, it's your broker, darling," said the rich woman. The rich man began to raise his window. "Goodbye," he said. "Good luck with your little project." And he put the phone to his ear, his foot on the gas pedal, and they were gone. The little old woman patted the little old man's wrinkled hand. "Something will come along soon," she said. And something did. A great big army tank rumbled slowly toward them, breaking pavement as it came. Its deafening roar shook butterflies and birds right out of the trees. The tank stopped. The top looked up. "What's the problem?" asked a soldier. "We need to get past this wall," said the little old man. "Well, I could blast a hole through it, knock it down, smash it to smithereens with my tank," the soldier said. "Oh, no," said the little old people. "There might be children on the other side, and lakes and snakes and trees and bees and frogs and dogs." "Oh," said the soldier. "All right, then." And he ducked down, clanked the lid shut, and rumbled away. The little old man sank back onto the grass. I guess there's only us, he said sadly. I know, said the little old woman, but sitting here is not good for the arthritis. And she pulled him to his feet, and they walked to the wall and looked it up and down again and sighed. And then they noticed something. Ooh, the wall looked like one smooth surface, but in the evening light, when they looked carefully, they discovered that the wall was made of tiny bits like pebbles. And look, cried the little old woman, if you hold your head just so, you can see some writing on this wall. Fear, denial, apathy, sexism, privilege, stubbornness, ignorance, greed. Why, it's not one big thing after all. It's just a lot of little bitty things, she said. Come on, old man, let's see what we can do. And she winked at him, and he winked back at her. And together they worked and worked, and they pulled out a bit of fear, and next they pulled out a bit of greed. The old people counted, but they had only managed to pull out 14 bits. Oh dear, said the little old woman, I don't think we're going to live long enough to make a hole in this wall. We're already old. The little old man tenderly rubbed her shoulders. There, there, he said, we're tired. Let's each take a dream out of the bag. And so they curled up together under the moon and went to sleep. They dreamed dreams of children and adults who knew about breaking down walls, like Greta Thunberg and Ursula Franklin and Viola Desmond and Nelson Mandela and Gandhi and many, many more. In the morning, they shared their dreams to remember how together people can tackle racism and greed and fear and climate change and violence of all kinds. It gave them energy, so they went straight back to the work of pulling out bits from that gigantic wall. In fact, the dreams made them feel so good that they sang a little old song right there by that ugly big wall. We shall overcome. And that's when things started to change. People began coming by to find out what was going on. Why are you singing by this ugly old wall? Asked a man with a blue hat. Don't you know it's hopeless? A girl said, it's useless to even try. A boy just rolled his eyes. Waste of time. A woman with a red hat shook her head sadly. They've gone crackers, she said. Picking away at a wall like that is a waste of time. They should be put safely away where there are lots of rocking chairs. In the sun and silence that fell, all the people heard a tiny sound like this. Chip, chip, chip. What's that? Asked a little young boy, pressing his ear to the wall. I heard it too, said a little young girl. The teeny tiny sound was coming from the other side of the wall. The little young girl and the little young boy began to chip, chip, chip at the wall as fast as they could. We might meet them in the middle, said the little young girl, tossing a bit of greed on the pile. Quick as prairie dogs, the little old people set to work again. The pile grew higher. The woman with the red hat said, well, I could help for a few minutes. And then others came, and with everyone helping, eventually they made a hole in that wall. And there, on the other side, stood a little young boy and a little young girl and a whole lot of other little young people. You're here, they cried. Come on. You go on through that wall, said the woman, fanning her face with her red hat, and we'll stay here and just keep chipping away at it. And so the little old people stepped through the wall and walked to the children on the other side of the mountain, carrying stories and songs and dreams. It was the end, or maybe just the beginning.